Continuing obligations for approved funds. Reporting and financial statements. An approved fund is required to prepare and submit the following to the FSC. Financial statements, which do not need to be audited but are required to be approved or signed by a director or the general partner of the fund within 6 months of the end of the financial year to which they relate. An annual return, no later than 31st of January, containing the following information as at 31st December of the preceding year. The number of investors in the fund. The total investments in the fund. The aggregate subscriptions to the fund. The aggregate redemptions paid to investors. The net asset value of the fund. Any significant investor complaint received by the fund and how the complaint was dealt with. A statement that the fund is not in breach of the requirements of the regulations that allow it to continue as an approved fund. Anti-money laundering obligations. The BVI anti-money laundering (AML) regime applies to all funds as they are classified as relevant persons under the Anti-Money Laundering Regulations Revised Edition 2020. In addition to appointing an appropriately qualified and independent individual as MLRO, as mentioned above, a fund will be required to put in place investor onboarding procedures which address typical know your client requirements. Put in place and maintain a written and effective system of internal controls, which provides appropriate policies, processes and procedures for forestalling and preventing money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. The manual. The manual should be reviewed annually to ensure compliance with AML regime in the BVI. Report suspicious transactions to the Financial Investigation Agency, FIA, in the BVI. Report the identity of its appointed MLRO to the FIA. The BVI rules do provide for funds to outsource all and any of these obligations to functionaries based outside of the BVI, such as an administrator or investment manager, if the fund has one. Any outsourcing must, however, be documented in writing. Fund policies and arrangements. The fund is required to maintain a valuation policy, setting out the applicable procedures for the valuation of fund property, the preparation of reports on the valuation, and setting out the mechanisms for sharing valuation information with investors, valuation policy. The fund is also required to have a safekeeping policy and have adequate arrangements in place for the safekeeping of fund property, safekeeping policy. On an annual basis, the fund should review its valuation policy and safekeeping policy to ensure compliance with BVI legislation. Obligations under FATCA and CRS. Approved funds are required to register for a Global Intermediary Identification Number, GIIN, with the US Internal Revenue Service. Funds are also required to enroll with the ITA. Enrollment for FATCA and CRS reporting is made through the ITA's online portal, called the BVI, Financial Account Reporting System. Funds must also pay an annual enrollment fee of $185 to the ITA through the ITA's online portal. Approved funds will need to identify reportable accounts and start to report the necessary information to the ITA. The reporting deadline for FATCA and CRS is 31st of May. The information that must be reported under FATCA and CRS is broadly similar and includes the name, date of birth, tax identification number for specified US persons where available, national insurance number for specified UK persons where available, jurisdiction of residence for reportable persons under CRS only, the account number, name and GIIN of the reporting financial institution, and the account balance. Some minimums apply under FATCA. ACRS additional information form must also be filed via the ITA's online portal by the 30th of September. Beneficial ownership regime. The BVI Business Companies Amendment Act 2024 and the BVI Business Companies and Limited Partnerships Beneficial Ownership Regulations 2024 introduced a requirement for BVI business companies and limited partnerships to file beneficial ownership information with the registry via the registry's online filing system, Virgin. Approved funds are exempt from the requirement to file beneficial ownership information with the registry, provided that the fund's beneficial ownership information can be provided to the registry within 24 hours of request by the fund's authorised representative or another person licensed by the FSC that has a physical presence in the BVI. Where an approved fund qualifies for the exemption, its BVI registered agent must still submit an exemption filing on behalf of the fund via the registry's online filing system, Virgin.